Hi, I'm Jenny Brown. Welcome to this week's MFB News. I hope you are incredibly well. You've had a good week and you've been keeping warm. It does feel like autumn is certainly upon us, doesn't it? I was actually working from home on Wednesday, and because it was just me in the house and I refused to heat a whole house for the sake of me being in one room, I was actually working with about 5 jumpers on. I looked like the Michelin Man. When the postman came to the door, he actually did raise an eyebrow. And I'm sure I'm not the only person doing this at the moment. Now, in terms of what we've got for you today, there's been some really positive changes in the buy-to-let mortgage market. I'm just going to run through how those look for you, update you on exactly what's been going on there, and then we're just going to run through the latest data that's been released from HMRC with regards to purchase transactions to give you a flavour of what's going on in the property market as well. Okay, so buy-to-let rates, what's been happening. So cast your minds back to previous videos. We've talked about swap rates and what's been going on there. So the rates at which essentially lenders are borrowing money from the money markets to re-lend out to you. Post mini budget, swap rates spiked at just over 5.2%, and they've been easing their way back down ever since. Yesterday they came to a new low more recently anyway, at 3.6 something percent, 3.692 I think it was. This morning they're back at 3.708. So they are moving around a bit, but to be at sub 3.7, even if it just was for a short period of time, it's really, really encouraging. So it just shows you how much things have moved down since the mini budget nightmare. So what's happening is the cost of funds are becoming cheaper on the money markets. Lenders are now able to comfortably reduce rates. Though we've had the autumn statement, that's been done. There were no nasty surprises in there. People are feeling, I want to say, good about the future. You know, we're going into a really kind of tricky patch, but at least we know what's going to be happening, and people have a real belief and kind of sense of agreement that actually what we're going to do is going to make things better in the long run, and therefore we understand the direction of travel and we're feeling much more reassured. So the lenders on the back of that are now comfortable in reducing their pricing. They understand where their cost of funds are going to be sitting over the coming months, and therefore they're happy to start bringing rates down. So how does this look in terms of how things are shaking out? So the very first thing I want to share with you is that Paragon, if you watch this video regularly, last week we introduced a new rate they had released. They've lowered their pricing again. So for me, this is kind of the standout product available at the moment. So there is a new 5-year fixed rate from Paragon. There's a green rate at 5.4% and a non-green, so EPC rating of D and below, of 5.5%. There's a 2.5% arrangement fee, $299 application fee, free valuation. Now, the reason this product is so good, there's quite lots of reasons actually. So the first thing is, if we look at Paragon's lending criteria, so they will lend to individuals and limited companies, and with limited companies they can lend on things like layered structures, so a company owned by people. They can lend on people with an unlimited number of properties in their portfolio in the background. So whether you're a first-time landlord or a landlord with 500 properties, they can consider lending to you. That's no problem for them either. They can do incorporation deals. They can do remortgages when you've owned the property for less than 6 months. They will lend on HMOs of up to 20 bedrooms and multi-units of up to 20 self-contained units. So loads of really, really strong things in their lending policy. Underline that, also they have this new rate out, which is really, really good. So to my mind, this is a standout rate. The other thing that makes this rate incredibly attractive is the rental calculation they're using. When they're saying, is the mortgage affordable, what sum they're using. So they are now stressing the calculation at the pay rates, the 5.5% or 5.4%. So if you're borrowing through a limited company, the calculation is 125% coverage, assuming an interest rate of 5.5 or 5.4%, which makes it, by quite a long stretch actually, the most generous rental calculation product on the market. And this really matters at the moment because of the high calculations lenders are using. We're often struggling to get there on the numbers for our clients. So great job, Paragon. Thank you so much. You made my day when you released this product. And yeah, really good news to see that come out. But Paragon are not the only lender who's been doing good things this week. We've seen the Mortgage Works reduce their rates by up to 1%. Their rates now start from 3.09 on variable and 3.99% on fixed rate pricing. LendInvest have made reductions. Their variable rates are now from 4.99, fixed rates from 5.94. Now, I suppose you'd be forgiven for thinking, gosh, Jenny, why are you telling me about the LendInvest rate when you've just given me the TMW rate, which is much lower? The TMW rates that we've just discussed are for individuals and landlords with less than 10 buy-to-let properties on standard properties. LendInvest are able to lend to limited companies and individuals, people with really large portfolios. multi-units, HMOs, that kind of thing. So very different type of lender, very different type of proposition that they're looking to attract, and therefore their rates are higher, so just keep those in mind. We've also seen fleet make reductions. Their tracker rates are now, for variable rates, are now from 4.65, fixed rates from 5.69. And these are the rates that are coming down from 6 point something percent, you know, so these are large reductions. So while 5.69 might not sound terribly exciting to you, if we look at where they've come from, this is a big, big reduction. We've seen accord mortgages, so again, going back to the more standard lender now, so individual name borrowings, standard properties, they've made reductions of up to 0.61%, so their variable rates are now from 4.5, fixed rates from 5.43. We've seen Vida Home Loans, and I think they win the prize for the largest reduction. They've reduced their rates by up to 1.2%. Their variable rates are now from 5.59 and fixed from 6.29. If you work out that their cheapest rate is on a fixed 6.29 and they've made a 1.2% reduction, it will just show you how high they were prior to the reductions. We've seen our lovely friends at the Coventry reduce their rates. Their fixed pricing is now from 5.4. We've seen Land Bay make reductions by up to 0.3%, so their pricing is now from 4.99. Now, in addition to the the interest rate changes, we've also seen a couple of other amendments to lending policies. So first of all, and this again is quite important, as I mentioned earlier, we've seen the rental calculations change from Accord Mortgages and the Saffron as well. They've reduced their rental calculations down, which can only be a really positive thing. And we've also seen Virgin Money remove their minimum income requirements. So what this means is that quite often when you apply for a buy-to-let mortgage, the lender wants you to be earning a arbitrary income, and it is arbitrary. It's normally £25,000 a year. However, there are quite a lot of lenders these days who say that we don't need you to earn £25,000 a year, but we just need you to be able to earn something, and whatever that is, you're going to have to prove it to us by way of tax returns, SA 302s, SA 100s, pay slips, P60s, that kind of stuff, all the normal things you'd expect to provide when you're applying for a mortgage. So you do need to have an income, but they don't mind how much it is. So Virgin have taken a decision that actually, whereas they were asking for £25,000 a year worth of income, they're now saying, do you know what, scrap that, we don't mind. We understand the whole premise of buy-to-lets, that they're self-funding, and having a minimum income requirement doesn't really kind of serve any great purpose. Now, the other thing that's been introduced, which I just quite liked and thought I would share with you, is the Skipton have made the decision to set aside a really large amount of money, millions of pounds, which means they're going to be able to offer all of their existing borrowers a free EPC. Now, with the EPCs, what this will do is, first of all, allow people to assess the energy efficiency of their properties, but also give them guidance about the changes they can make to drive up the energy efficiency of their property to make it more, greener, and also bring your heating bills down. I mean, we're all focused on that at the moment, aren't we? So that's a really nice touch. And actually, it's going to be interesting to see how lenders come to the table with their kind of green offering going forwards. We touched on this a bit last week as well. We're starting to see lenders come back to the green agenda, having stepped away from it for the last couple of months. Obviously, huge amounts of distractions going on in the background. And I thought this was a really nice idea by the Skipton. So, where does this leave us? So, in terms of a roundup on rates, so personal borrowing, straightforward properties first of all. And by straightforward, what I mean is single units, not multi-letting, so no HMOs, no multi-units. So personal borrowing 2-year fixed rates are now from 3.99, 5 years from 4.99, variable rates are from 3.09, and a variable rate without any early repayment charges from 3.99. We are seeing a lot of people taking these at the moment. I think the kind of view amongst people is that the next couple of years are going to be pretty bumpy in terms of not just interest rate costs, but everything else that's going on as well within the economy and cost of living. And so what they're saying is, look, I'm just going to take a variable rate. I don't want to commit myself to anything. I want a rate that's as low as I can get it for now. I'm just going to ride out the next couple of years. I want full flexibility, so at any moment I can jump out of this variable rate should I choose. To allow me to even move on to a fixed rate if I decide that actually I've just had enough, I'm going to sell the property, I want to be able to do that too. So these no ERC products are proving incredibly popular with our clients just now. Limited company rates, so 2-year fixes from 4.99, 5-year fixes from 5.4, variable rates from 3.49, and no ERC rates again from 3.99%. So things are starting to ebb down very, very gradually, which is really fantastic to see. I do think we're going to see more price reductions over the coming weeks, so hopefully another positive update for you this time next week. How far things are going to go, I think there is a little way for things to drop further, but I don't think it's going to be massive. please, please, please do not think rates are going to go back to the kind of springtime levels of, 5-year fixes at 2.99. That simply is not going to be happening. If you think about the cost of funds on the markets, sitting at about 3.7, if a lender was lending to you at 2.99, they'd be making a loss, of 0.8% per year. They're simply not going to do that. So just keep those kinds of numbers in your head when you're thinking about your options. Now, we have got a contingent of clients who are saying, look, do you know what, I'm just going to wait and see how things shake out. I don't want to make an application now. I appreciate that might mean me moving onto a standard variable rate because I'm nearing the end of my deal. I'm quite happy to endure that for a couple of months if I have to. I just want to wait things out. And that is definitely one option for you. And if that's, the way you want to play things, that's fine. But another kind of thing just to keep in mind is that if you apply for a mortgage now on any given interest rate, for most lenders, if between the point of application and the point of completion, they drop their pricing down, they will let you move on to the new lower interest rate. Now, they may charge you a small admin fee, and the numbers that we're being given by lenders is like £150, it's not thousands of pounds. So actually, to my mind, this gives you a really good option to be able to get a mortgage application in now, so you're kind of through the underwriting process. You get to the point of being ready to complete, and then you can make the decision, do I go now or do I actually sit and wait and see if rates have come down if they haven't already? And if they have already, obviously you want to be asking to move on to one of those lower interest rates. So just keep that in your minds also. Now, the last thing on lenders I just want to talk about is just give you an update on where we are in terms of rental calculations. Now, the easy way of doing this is rather than 125 or 145 at 5.5% coverage. The way that I find it easiest to express to people how much you can borrow per pound of rental income is to do it as a multiplier of the monthly rent. So, if you were to take a mortgage at the moment in your personal name on a straightforward property, you can borrow 168 times the monthly rent that you get. So to put this into terms of numbers, if your rent was £1,000 per month, you could borrow £168,000 or 75% loan to value, whichever was the lower figure. In the limited company space, that multiplier moves up to 178 times monthly rent. So £1,000 a month of rent, you could borrow £178,000 or 75%, whichever was the lower figure. So just to kind of hope that gives you a flavour of where the borrowing capacity sits. Now, there is some flexibility within these numbers in terms of there's two ways of going about things actually. So some lenders, if you're doing a like-for-like mortgage, so you're literally taking in the amount of money you owe, not increasing it and just taking a new deal with a new provider, some of these guys will offer a much more flexible calculation than the ones I just mentioned. There is also something called top slicing, where a lender will look at your overall financial situation, all of your income, your disposable income, and apply that to the rental calculation as well. So if you're coming up a bit short on the rental calculation, they can look to top things up by using your own income. Now, this really only works for those people with a couple of buy-to-let properties and a good level of income in the background, or actually not necessarily a good level of income. If you've got kind of an okay level of income, but you've got no, for example, home mortgage, no credit cards, no cars on HP, it could be actually you've got lots of disposable income knocking around. So these things become very, very bespoke. So if you do need a mortgage at the moment and you'll find the numbers aren't working, just give us a call and we can kind of chat through all the various options with you. Now, the HMRC have released some data telling us that residential transactions in the UK increased 29% annually to 110,850 in October 2022. However, this figure is 3% lower when compared with the previous month's residential transactions, which total 112,370. And HMRC noted in its property transactions report that the levels of current monthly property transactions remain similar to the late 2019 before the COVID-19 pandemic. So what is this telling us? So it's really hard because you're reporting, when we get to the point where HMRC are reporting, we're talking about completions. So completions are something which is based on a sale which would have been agreed several months prior. So before all of this kind of kicked off with regards to interest rates and everything went crazy. So I think in terms of what we can take away from this, things are starting to slow down, definitely. The fact we've seen a reduction on the previous month shows that the market is definitely starting to slow. And I thought what I'd just do with you is share what I'm hearing from people who are actually looking for properties, selling properties, that kind of thing at the moment. So it does seem to be very, very regional. So when we speak to some people, they're saying, I'm still trying to buy a property, but actually every time something comes to the market, it simply gets sold very, very quickly. So some people are actually seeing the market remain incredibly buoyant. Other people are saying, crikey, I put my property on the market, I haven't had a viewing booked in. So I do think that actually in some regions, people are saying, actually we're very nervous about everything that's kind of going on in the ether, so we're just going to hold off moving at the moment. Now, when I'm reading the various reports that are available, there's definitely a quietening down. Let's say a downward trend, but a quietening down in the property market generally. So, number of people looking to buy across the board is slowing. The number of properties coming onto the market is largely remaining level. Which means that the demand is starting to slow down, which will then eventually, if it were to continue on that vein, mean that property prices would start to really slow down. But at the moment, still, despite all of the news that you will be seeing, and I'm reading it too, the prediction is that house prices will soften in 2023 by circa 5%, so come down by 5%. And do remember, this is a broad brush figure across the whole of the UK. Some regions will fare far better than others. So some won't be anything like 5% and some will be more. It's a blended average. But the expectation is that very much so into 2024 we will start to see things recover. So I think the message here is, as a property investor, there probably is a window of opportunity coming up for you this coming year in terms of investments. The other thing is that actually the number of people looking to rent properties is increasing at the moment, and the number of properties coming to market to rent is slowing down, which will push up yields. So I think if you look at just the number side of things and the kind of facts, one could argue that 2023 could be a really good year for landlords to be investing, taking into account the higher yields, lowering property prices. Obviously then we've got to kind of think about the impact of the higher borrowing costs this year or in 2023 compared to had you taken a mortgage in 2022. But overall, actually, the yield position is much stronger than it was, say, 10 years ago for landlords. So 2023 could actually be the year of landlord investing. How lovely to be able to give you a slightly more positive update. So I hope this leaves you feeling warm and fuzzy. And on that note, I'm going to duck out. So thank you, as always, for watching. And as always, if you have any questions, do give us a call, 0345 345 6788. We'd love to have a chat with you. Have a wonderful weekend, keep warm, and I'll see you again next week.